How you doing, everybody? It is the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. It is Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. The days are dwindling till New Year's Eve. We are right around the corner. I just spit on my computer. Not good. On today's program, we break down the Browns' upcoming matchup with the Ravens. Talked yesterday about some injuries that the Browns are dealing with, and I'll be curious to see. I know let me save that. We'll get into that. We'll look ahead to the Cavaliers this weekend and another big deal in baseball, a massive contract for Carlos Correa. That and more coming up on a Wednesday Bullpen right here with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
So, So, what's going on with my mic here? There we go. That's better. So, yesterday, Mary Kay Cabot, Cleveland.com, who was plugged in to the Browns and the goings-on in Berea as much as anybody, we asked her on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show when she joined us about changes to the coaching staff. And Mary Kay is obviously has relationships in the buildings. She has a feel for this better than anybody, I would think. And also, she's not going to outright say this guy's going to get fired because the season's still going on. She's not. If she thinks someone's getting fired, she's not going to flat out say it. But in the way she answered the question, you kind of know what she thinks is going to happen. And what she thinks is going to happen is that Kevin Stefanski will remain the head coach of the Browns, and that there's a good chance Joe Woods and Mike Prefer are gone. Now, she didn't say that. Let me make that very clear. She didn't say Joe Woods is going to be fired. She didn't say Mike Prefer is going to be fired. If the season were over, she might say it. I think, during the season, she's not going to go flat out say they're going to get fired. She's not going to say that, say that with certainty at this point. That's not, she's not a sports talk radio or a TV personality that's giving opinions and doing stuff like that. She's telling you what she knows and what she thinks may happen. But reading between the lines, my impression is that she believes there's a decent chance those guys are going to get fired. Now, she was confident that Kevin Stefanski was going to keep his job, and I think that's what makes sense. I mean, I think it makes sense to keep Kevin Stefanski, although I understand the arguments for letting him go. I certainly want to see Joe Woods and Mike Prefer gone. I think they both need to be replaced. I don't think there's any doubts there. There's debate certainly about whether Kevin Stefanski should remain the head coach of the Browns. Myself, Jason Lloyd, and many others in the media think he should stay. There's plenty of members in the media, Garrett Bush, Brad Sellers, and others who think that Kevin Stefanski should be gone. There's a debate, and we'll see what happens. I don't think there's any debate on the other guys. I haven't seen it, and I could be wrong because I'm not listening and watching everything. But as far as I know, I mean, it's pretty much consensus that Joe Woods and Mike Prefer need to go. There's no argument to me for those guys. But the one thing I'll say about everybody's not everybody's, but Mary Kay's confidence that Kevin Stefanski will remain, and Aditi Kinkhabwala has similar confidence, and I do too to some degree. But I will say that you never know with Jimmy Haslam. Jimmy Haslam is a billionaire, and billionaires do whatever they want. Often they don't think about the consequences. He has shown himself to be untrustworthy, not wise. Frankly, I'm not sure how he made all that money with how he runs things with the Browns, but it helps when you start life 3 steps from home plate. But And even if, again, as I've said many times, even if Jimmy Haslam does fire Kevin Stefanski, I've got zero faith that he'd get it right the next time. Because if we acknowledge that Stefanski's wrong, well, then he's gotten every hire wrong for a decade. Why would he all of a sudden turn it around? But I would like to see Kevin Stefanski be given an opportunity. I do believe that if given that opportunity, he, Deshaun Watson, and the Browns will turn it around next year. You could laugh at that. You could think I'm being foolish or naive or whatever. Listen, I didn't pick the Browns to make the playoffs this season. I picked them to go 8-9. I do think they can go 8-9. In fact, I think they're going to finish. I think they're going to go 3-1 in the final 4 games and finish 8-9. That's how I see it. So I think I'm going to be right on the money. Now, last year I thought they'd be better than they were. 2020 they were a little better than I thought they'd be. For the most part, in my years in Cleveland, I've been pretty on the money with my predictions on how the Browns were going to be. It's funny because for years I had many, many people calling me a hater. And recently, not that I've been called a homer, but I've been called overly optimistic on the Browns, which is funny because for years I was accused of being a hater. The point is it's all prisoner of the moment, and the reaction is what you want it to be. If you like me, you're going to say I'm being fair. If you don't like me, you're going to say I'm being a homer or a hater or whatever you want to come up with. But I look at this team, and I do think there are more flaws in it overall than I thought. And I think one of the problems with this team is they've blown it with a lot of the second and third tier players. And the team is very top heavy, and you can't consistently win that way. It's hard. Now, Deshaun Watson, assuming by next year, I think it'll happen even before that to some degree, but assuming by next year he becomes the quarterback we expect him to be, which I think will happen. In fact, I'm very confident will happen. He will make up for the flaws. Right now, he's not doing that. Right now, he's a negative rather than a positive. Eventually, he'll be not only a positive, but a massive positive. But the Browns are a flawed roster. They don't have a ton of okay guys. And I'll even compare it to Cincinnati, right? You look at the way the Bengals have been constructed. And it's not, I picked the Bengals specifically, and I know a lot of people say, well, you pick the Bengals because they're your team. And yes, because they are my team, I know them well, but the Browns and the Bengals are the two teams I know the best, right? But the reason I picked the Bengals is because they haven't been a consistently good organization, a well-run organization. They've had many of the similar problems over the years that the Browns have had organizationally. Now, while I'm not a huge fan of Mike Brown, he's not as bad an owner as Jimmy Haslam because he doesn't meddle like Jimmy Haslam does. I give him that. Now, Jimmy Haslam's willing to spend money more than Mike Brown has, although I give Mike Brown his credit. He has spent a lot more money the last couple of years. But he doesn't meddle. That's the one thing I say he does. He stays out of the way, and he's not quick to fire coaches, and it has worked at times. I think he went too long with Marvin Lewis, but another story for another day. But when you look at the Browns and Bengals, in terms of frontline elite level talent, it's very close. In fact, I might argue the Browns have more super elite talent than the Bengals do. More players that are super elite. The difference is in those second and third level players, the really good players, and then your solid NFL above average players, the Bengals have way more than the Browns do. The Bengals have hit more on those second and third tier players than the Browns have in recent years. And so when the Bengals have an injury, they can overcome it better than the Browns can because they're a deeper team. You look at the Browns defense, right? Myles Garrett is a superstar. Denzel Ward has been a superstar. Now, he hasn't played at that level this year, and that's part of the problem. But he is. He's a Pro Bowl caliber player that is not having a great year. Now, I expect him to bounce back next year. I don't know what's going on with him. He has not played his best football this year, but I expect that. And then, you have Clowney, who's a very good player, and Martin Emerson's becoming a very good player. And then most of the other guys on defense are like tier 4 and 5 guys. The Bengals don't have really any superstars. They don't have any tier 1 players. They don't have any Myles Garretts. But they have a lot of tier 2 and 3 guys. It's just like an offensive line, right? An offensive line. I'd rather have 5 tier 2 and 3 guys than 3 tier 1 guys and 2 guys who stink. It's about having that balance. You want to have the frontier talent. It's the second and third level talent that the Browns have not done as good a job on. And that's part of the issue of this team. But despite that, I still think there is more talent than we've seen this year. And that's on the coaching staff, and some of that's on Stefanski. Until recent weeks, I thought the offense had overachieved with Brissett. Lately, they haven't been as good. You've seen injuries to the offensive line. What happened? The whole run game has collapsed. Well, that shouldn't happen, but it has. Some of that blame goes on the coaching staff. Stefanski still has a lot to prove. I think he will prove it next year. But if I'm wrong, it's a mess. If they keep him and guys who have defended him, like me and Jason, and I know my man Nick Wilson and others have defended Stefanski, if we're wrong, it's a disaster because then they're going to waste another year. That's the reality. Now, the truth is they could hire somebody new, and you might be wasting a year, too, because that new coaching staff want to change things up. He might not be any good. Who knows? But I think the Browns will bounce back next year. But they really, everybody's like, oh, they traded their whole draft. The Browns have 8 draft picks. All right? They don't have a first-round pick, yes. But they have 8 draft picks. They have a second, I think 2/3, 2/4, a 5th, 6th, and a 7th. Browns have plenty of picks. They got 5 picks in the first 4 rounds. Okay? They may not have a first-round pick, but they have a chance in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round to add 5 quality players if they get it right. And sometimes they have, sometimes they haven't. They have struggled in getting those, as I said, 2nd and especially 3rd-tier players. And they have now, with Myles Garrett making a ton of money and the guards making a ton of money and Watson making a ton of money and Ward making a ton of money, and to some degree Nick Chubb making a lot of money, not compared to those guys, but for a running back, they can't blow those 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks. They got to get it right. When they sign free agents, they got to make some hits. You can't blow it. This is a massive offseason to fill some holes, not getting sexy names and big superstars. That's over. They need 2nd and 3rd tier players to be solid. You don't need everybody to be a star, but they need more solid players. Now, you hope the guy you draft in the 2nd round or the 3rd round could, these young guys, one of them turns out to be a star. That's a hope. But the rest of the guys, you need to add 5, 6, 7, 8 solid players. That's what's missing. Folks, let me tell you something. BetOnline.net, your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to the college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. Got it all at BetOnline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We are always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet Online, where the game starts. Quick break. And I want to talk specifically Browns-Ravens this Saturday, next, right here in the bullpen with Adam Bull. I'm going to shut off my camera for 10 seconds. But I'm still here. It's bad enough having to listen to somebody blow their nose. I didn't want you to have to see it, too. I mean, we all blow our nose, but... All right. So, Browns, the short turnaround this week. Same for the Ravens. Triple header Saturday with college football over. And the Browns are now a 2.5. Browns are now a 3-point favorite over the Ravens. The Ravens will be, it looks like Tyler Huntley might have a chance to start. He's the backup quarterback in Baltimore who got hurt last week. I believe he got a limited practice in. If he can't go, they'll be to their third string, or I can't even think of his name. Well, who the hell was? I got to look up. I can't even remember. They still beat the Steelers. It wasn't Huntley, and I don't think the guy threw the ball all that much. Who the hell was it? Oh, Anthony Brown. I don't even know who Anthony Brown is. But if Huntley can't go and Lamar Jackson can't go and Lamar did not practice, and I don't think he's going to play this week, then Anthony Brown would probably be the starting quarterback. I honestly have no idea who Anthony Brown is. He's a rookie from Cliffwood, New Jersey, who played at Oregon. 6'1", 228. It came in when Tyler Huntley got hurt last week. He was 3 of 5 for 16 yards. And he ran the ball 3 times for -5 yards. I don't know. He might have been taking a knee for all I know at the end of the game. I didn't see the end of that game. I think he was taking a knee, if I remember now correctly. But anyway, so obviously that's a big advantage even if Huntley plays, because he's certainly not as good as Lamar. But if they end up being at their third string quarterback, Anthony Brown, it's a huge advantage for the Browns, and that's why they are favored at home, even though the Ravens overall have been a significantly better team. And the Ravens are 9-4, the Browns are 5-8. So but that's the reason. Their quarterback situation is the reason. And earlier we talked about the fact that Mary Kay said that she expects Kevin Stefanski back next year, and I do. And the reason I bring it up again is because the one thing that would, again, making it clear that you never know with Jimmy Haslam, but the one thing that I think really could change the plan is how do the Browns play in these final 4 games? They had won 2 in a row. They lose to Cincinnati. Now, do they completely crater and finish 6-11, 5-12? Do they completely fall apart, show no heart, no life at the end of the year? To me, if that happens, that's an indictment on the coach. Or do they go down fighting? Do they win three games at least to get to 8-9, or even win out and finish over 500 and somehow have a miracle shot to get in the playoffs the final week? Again, very unlikely. They could be, even if they win, there's a chance they could get eliminated this week. Probably wouldn't technically, but by next week they probably would, even if they won the next 2. But I want to see what life this team has left. Do they fight? Do they play hard? All their games left are winnable, but all their games left are losable. Ravens at home, Saints at home. They're favored this week. They're going to be favored next week, most likely. At the Commanders, there'll be a dog in that game. At the Steelers, we'll see. But even at Washington, they won't be a big underdog. It depends, how the Browns play the next 2 weeks before that game and how the Commanders play the next 2 weeks. And right now the Commanders are playing, pretty good football. They've won, let's see, I think they're like 5-1-1 in their last 7 games or something like that. Let me see if I got that right. They are, 6-1-1 in their last 8 games. So the Commanders have played very good football. So, we'll see. But their next 2 games are Giants at home and at the 49ers. So those won't be easy, especially the 49er game. But the Browns still, to me, have plenty to play for. Some guys are playing for jobs. Some guys are playing for pride. And you know what? As absurd as it is, because the Browns we know are not going to the playoffs, you're not mathematically eliminated. So I think you got to go into this game still thinking, we're alive. Why not? Because you are. As remote a chance as it is, weird things happen sometimes. You keep winning, you may still be alive next week. depending on what happens in some of the other games. And so you got to play that way. It's not like the Browns are trying to get a higher draft pick. Not like we care about that. The Browns, I want to see them come out and play with life. I want to see Deshaun, and I'm not, I get it. You need to be careful with Myles Garrett is banged up or the tread on the tire on Nick Chubb, who hasn't looked very good the last couple of weeks. But I want to see, especially on the offensive side, I want to see what Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Nick Chubb, and not Kareem Hunt because he's not going to be here next year, so I don't care about that. But I want to see these guys and what they're going to look like playing with Deshaun Watson. I want him to get the feel of playing with these guys. And another thing, I've said this a couple days in a row, I'm going to keep repeating this. James Hudson should be starting at right tackle. There's no reason that Jack Conklin's going to be on this team next year. He talked in his press conference yesterday as if he's gone. It's time to turn the page there. James Hudson should be playing. I think we need, hopefully the Browns beat reporters will ask Kevin Stefanski about that today, because I don't see any reason why you wouldn't play James Hudson at this point. It doesn't make any sense. I'd like to know why. So we'll see. But the Browns, whether they come out and play hard the rest of the season, I know Aditi said yesterday, you could, I can't remember how she put it, but you could, I don't know if it's like you could learn something about a team, or the way you play at the end of the year can be meaningful next year. Just because they play well at the end of the year doesn't mean they're going to get off to a great start next year. Certainly no guarantee. The Rams won the Super Bowl, and look at them this year. But I do think with Deshaun Watson learning this team, his teammates, this offense, learning to just play in the NFL again after 2 years, I do think there are a lot of important reps for him to get in these last 4 games. And with guys he's going to be playing with next year, I think it's really important. And I just got a hunch. I still don't think Deshaun Watson played very well last week. He had guys open, and he's not seeing when he was in Houston, he saw the field as well as any quarterback. He really did. He was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. He saw the field well. He was tremendous. We haven't seen that guy, obviously. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. We didn't even see it. He didn't even look like an NFL quarterback against the Texans. He looked like a mediocre NFL quarterback against the Bengals. Well, this week, I'm expecting to see a good NFL quarterback. Now, I'm not expecting the best game of Deshaun Watson's career, and he's playing a tough defense in Baltimore. But I am, the Ravens. It's not like they need to worry about the Ravens scoring a zillion points. Their offense is a disaster. I mean, I know they got a good running game. They can't throw the ball down the field at all. And if they're playing with their third-string quarterback, they're going to be a completely one-dimensional team. The Browns have to be able to get this offense going here and get Deshaun Watson going. And even though it's a tough matchup and everything between the Ravens playing defense and Watson's struggles, it points to him not having a particularly big game this week. A lot of times it goes the opposite way in sports than you expect. I think this is one of those times. I think Deshaun Watson's going to have a really good game this week. I think he's going to have 2 touchdowns throwing, and I think he's going to run one in, and I think we're going to be feeling really good about it at the end of this game. I do think the Browns are going to win this week, and I think they're going to score more points than you would expect against the Ravens. I see this being like a 24-13 Browns win. I think they're not only going to win, but win comfortably. I think it's going to be a shocker. I think people are going to think I'm crazy. I may end up eating my words on Sunday or Saturday when we do our Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show postgame, Saturday evening. But I'm feeling good about the Browns this week. Now, maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't think it matters. Whatever. I'm just telling you how I feel about this game. All right, so on Thursday's podcast, I'm going to be interviewing my buddy Zach Meisel from The Athletic. We're going to be talking about the Guardians signing Josh Bell, the Guardians signing Mike Zunino, and what they have left to do in free agency / the trade market. And on Friday, it's the bullpen debut of Cleveland, an analytics guru who's right here in Cleveland, and my man TA. He goes by Cleve TA on Twitter. This guy, a lot of people that are on Twitter, you know who this guy is. He's a extremely smart guy, and I invited him to lunch a couple of years ago just to talk about analytics and how they can be used wisely in football. And he's a brilliant guy when it comes to this stuff. So I'm looking forward to having him on the podcast on Friday. So because I'm having guests the next 2 days, I'm not going to do my traditional NFL picks. So let's do them now, right after this, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. All right, here we go. I already gave you the Browns. I do think they're going to win and cover. Thursday night football. Tomorrow night, 49ers at the Seahawks. Right now, the 49ers are cooking. They lost Trey Lance earlier in the year. They lost Jimmy Garoppolo. They're down to Brock Purdy. Now, he may not play. He's banged up too. I don't know. I don't like the way the Seahawks are playing. I was obviously not a full believer in the beginning of the year. All due credit, however their season turns out, it's much better than anybody thought. They can lose out, and at 7-10, they did much better than any of us thought. I don't think they'll lose out. I don't think they'll win this game. I'll take the Niners on the road, and I'll lay the 3 points with the Niners. Other Sunday 1 o'clock game, we gave you the Saturday game, Ravens-Browns. The other two Saturday games, Colts-Vikings at 1 o'clock. I'm not a big believer in the Vikings. Lost last week for the third time, but the Colts stink. They're poorly coached. They have a bad quarterback situation. I'll take the Vikings at home. I don't love it at 4. I'd like it better at 3, but I'll still take the Vikings to win by 4 to 7 points. And the Saturday night game is a dandy, if you will. Got some good games. I like the Sunday night game. The Monday night game is hideous. But so the Saturday night game, Dolphins at Bills. The Bills are a 7.5-point favorite. I know the Dolphins have not played their best football lately. And the game's in Buffalo, and it's going to be cold. And I don't know, man. And I'm not a huge Tua guy, but I think it's too many points for Buffalo to give up. Maybe I'm nuts, and it's weird because I'm not a big believer in the Dolphins. I don't love how the Bills are playing right now on offense. Defense is really good. I don't know. I'll take the Dolphins to cover. I think the Bills win, but I think it's a close game at home. I think the Bills win by 3 to 7. I'll lay the 7.5 I'll take the 7.5. With the Dolphins. Sunday at 1, Eagles-Bears. Eagles are a 9-point road favorite. Obviously, the Eagles have been phenomenal. They haven't lost a road game all year. I could see a letdown potentially in this game for the Eagles. I know they've played great all year. There's very little reason to bet against them. But they got the Cowboys coming up the next week on the road. And they want to put the Cowboys to bed and sweep them. I could see them having enough of a letdown to keep the Bears in this game. I think ultimately the Eagles pull out a win, but I'll take the Bears to cover. I think the Eagles win, like I said, with Buffalo by 3 to 7 points. But I'll take the 9 with the Bears at home. 9 at home. I know the Eagles are way better than the Bears. Way. I'm not, and they played 10 times. The Eagles might win 10 times, but a number of those will be close. Justin Fields keeps him in the game. I'll take the Bears plus 9. Falcons-Saints, this game is hideous. Andy Dalton against Desmond Ridder making his first start for the Falcons. I like the Saints in this one. Falcons have been awful on the road. Traditionally, the Saints have been good at home. They've been mediocre at home this year because they're not very good. But a guy making his first NFL start against a decent defensive team, I don't like the Falcons. And the Falcons' pass defense is bad. And Chris Olave has become quite the weapon. I think he has a big game, goes over 1,000 yards on the season. I'll take Andy Dalton and the Saints to cover by 4 over the Falcons. This next game, Lions and Jets, I got to give the Lions credit. I was not a big Dan. Everybody else is going nuts about Dan Campbell. I'm like, the guy's a meathead. He sucked last year. They're off to a terrible start. Obviously, they're playing great football. The Jets are going in the wrong direction. The game is in New Jersey. I don't fully trust either team, but I just like the way the Lions are playing right now. So I'm going to go with the Lions. I think after this game, and I think the Lions got a good shot to go to the playoffs because the bottom of the NFC playoff picture is not great. And you look at the Lions' schedule. They're at now 3 of the games are on the road, but at the Jets, at the Panthers, Bears at home, at the Packers. I mean, those are all games they can win. I think they got a good shot to finish 9-8, which would probably get them into the playoffs in the NFC. So I'll take them. I'll take the Lions in a pick'em game against the Jets. Steelers-Panthers, 1 o'clock in Carolina. I hate both of these teams. The Steelers, if they lose this game, will finish under 500 for the first time in decades. And it's going to happen, for crying out loud. How about those Panthers? They are rocking and rolling. I don't feel good about this game. I'd stay away from it. I think my hatred for the Steelers might be affecting my pick here, but I'll take the Panthers minus 2.5. Cowboys at the Jaguars. Cowboys favored by 4.5. I do like the Cowboys in this spot on the road. Jacksonville has been an up-and-down team. I'll take Cowboys minus 4.5. Also 1 o'clock. Chiefs at the Texans. The Chiefs are a 14-point favorite in Houston. The Texans showed a lot of life last week and had a lead on Dallas for much of the second half before letting it get away. I think that was their last gasp. I know the Chiefs had a massive lead and ended up not covering against Denver. Maybe the same thing happens this week, but it's a stay away. But if I have to pick, I'll lay the 14. I can't believe I'm laying 14 points on the road, but that's how bad the Texans are. If this game were in Kansas City, the Chiefs would probably be favored by 3 touchdowns. They might be, at least 18, 19 points, maybe 20, maybe 21. 4 o'clock game Sunday, Cardinals at the Broncos. These teams are awful. How do you pick this game? Flip a coin. I'll take Denver at home. Patriots at the Raiders. Don't love either of these teams either. Josh McDaniels going up against Belichick. I guess I'll take Belichick to get to 8-6. It's impressive if he gets there with no offense at all. I don't think Mac Jones is any good at all. I'll take the Patriots minus 1. Titans at the Chargers. I think the Chargers are making their way to the playoffs. I think the Titans are going to collapse, and I think the Jaguars are going to end up winning that division at potentially 8-9. If the Titans lose 2 of the next if the Jaguars win 2 of their next 3 and the Titans lose 2 of the next 3, it'll come down to the final game of the season between the Titans and Jags in Jacksonville, and the winner would go to the playoffs. But I'll take the Chargers in this one to win. Bengals at the Buccaneers. Bengals are a 3.5 point favorite at Tampa. I think they should be favored by more than that. Now, I know they're dealing with injuries. Their best pass rusher, Trey Hendrickson, has a broken wrist, although I guess there's a chance he's going to play. We all know what happened with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd last week. Hayden Hurst, their tight end. I don't know how many of those guys are going to play. To me, it doesn't matter. The Buccaneers, it matters, but the Buccaneers stink, and I think the Bengals are going to win this game easy. Tom Brady's not the same guy. I don't care. I don't fear him anymore. Maybe he'll shut me up. We'll see. I'll lay the 3.5 with the Bengals. Sunday night game is a good one. Giants at the Commanders. Commanders a 4.5 point favorite like the Jets. The Giants are collapsing. The Commanders going in the right direction. They're coming off a bye. I like the Commanders at home to cover. We'll do the Monday game on Monday. That's it for a Wednesday edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. I'll see you tomorrow right here in the Bullpen. See you, everybody.